Chapter 1. The Last Normal Morning. Jacob Weller's alarm went off at 6:45 a.m., just like it always did. He blinked once, stared at the ceiling, and listened. A siren in the distance, a dog barking down the block, a steady wind pressing against his apartment's old windows. Life went on. Jacob sat up, rubbed the sleep from his eyes, and reached for his phone. 32 new emails, none from anyone who mattered. A news alert glowed at the top of the screen. Breaking. President Holden calls for total economic shutdown of trade with China. Tensions escalate. He sighed. The third headline like that in a week. He scrolled past it and opened the weather app instead. 46 degrees. Overcast. Wind from the northeast. In the shower, he thought about the headlines again. He didn't follow politics closely. Not anymore. It was all shouting and threats and bluffs. None of it had anything to do with him. Not with the daily grind, not with the spreadsheets, not with the slow spiral of his own life. Just noise. Coffee brewed as he dressed in a suit 2 years past its prime. He ate a cold slice of pizza from the night before, standing barefoot in the kitchen, watching the steam rise from his mug. Another Tuesday. Another blur. Traffic was heavier than usual. The Eisenhower Expressway crawled at half its usual pace, and Jacob noticed something strange. More military vehicles than normal. Green Humvees nestled among the Ubers and delivery vans. An accident, maybe, or a drill. The radio was all speculation. The president's latest threat to shut down all trade with China has rattled global markets again this morning. Satellite images show increased Chinese naval activity in the South China Sea. We don't believe either side wants war, but this brinkmanship is dangerous. Jacob turned the dial until he found Jazz. He preferred not knowing. The Grayson Financial Building sat near the west edge of downtown, 26 floors of glass and steel, pretending to be more important than it was. The kind of place that lived and died by quarterly reports, where no one remembered your name unless you were late. Jacob nodded to the security guard as he entered. The man, usually chatty, only gave a tense nod in return. The large flat screen mounted in the lobby was muted, but impossible to ignore. Stock tickers plummeting in red, military footage rolling on a loop, and the same headline blazing across the bottom. China threatens severe consequences if U.S. imposes blockade. Jacob made a conscious choice not to read the rest. His cubicle hadn't changed in years. One framed photo of his mother from a trip to Yosemite, a faded mug with the Grayson logo, and 3 plastic plants to hide how sterile it all felt. Tara, the junior analyst seated across from him, popped up like a prairie dog. "You hear the president's speech this morning?" she asked. "I didn't catch it," Jacob replied without looking up. "He basically dared China to hit us back, said we'd crush their economy in retaliation. Mark thinks it's a bluff, but I don't know. It feels different this time." Jacob gave a half nod. "Markets are always nervous." "No, I mean, everyone's nervous." "You feel it?" He looked at her. Really looked. Tara was young, smart, probably too good for this place. Her usual caffeine-fueled energy was dimmed. She wasn't smiling. "Yeah," he said, "I feel it." By 10 a.m., their email system started lagging. At 10:08, the phones cut out entirely. No signal. Mark said, holding his phone up like it was a divining rod. "Maybe the system's overloaded." "Cyber attack?" Tara said, only half joking. The office buzz dulled. People clustered around windows. Someone turned on a portable radio, and the scratchy voice of a local broadcaster filled the room. No official word from Homeland Security, but sources tell us NORAD has elevated its threat status to DEFCON 2. A murmur swept across the floor. DEFCON was real now, not just a line from old movies. Jacob stood and walked to the windows. The sky was still gray, but lower somehow. Heavy. Traffic below had thinned. He counted 3 military trucks stopped at intersections, personnel with rifles standing watch. A message pinged across every computer on the floor. Emergency protocol. All employees report to designated safe areas. Do not use elevators. The room stilled. People laughed, nervously at first, then looked around. No one moved. That's when the sirens started, low and rising, a sound none of them had ever heard in real life, drawn out, primal, and unmistakable. Civil defense. Nuclear. Someone screamed. Others grabbed their bags, their phones, each other. Jacob watched the panic begin like it was behind glass. Then the fire alarm screamed overhead, and the building's intercom crackled to life. "This is not a drill. I repeat, this is not a drill. All personnel, please evacuate the building immediately. Jacob's brain seemed to short circuit. 1,000 thoughts surged at once, but none completed. Was this really happening? Should he call someone? His mom? There was no signal. The network was down. He grabbed his bag and moved with the tide. The stairwell was chaos, crowded, loud, filled with heat and sweat. Someone fell behind him. Someone cried for help. A man pushed forward, eyes wild. Jacob was halfway down when the building trembled. Not like an earthquake, more like a shudder from deep underground. The kind of movement you felt more than heard. People screamed. The lights flickered, then stabilized. Someone yelled about bombs, about missiles. Jacob turned around, pushed back up 2 flights of stairs, and burst out onto the 8th floor. The hallway was empty. He walked past Tara's desk, past the overturned chairs and forgotten laptops, toward the large windows at the far end. The sky wasn't just gray anymore. It was glowing. Far in the distance, something fell from the heavens, a bright streak like a shooting star. Then another. Then 3. His phone buzzed in his pocket, somehow miraculously. Emergency alert, nuclear strike warning, Chicago and surrounding regions. Take shelter immediately. This is not a test. He stared at it, then looked back up. One of the objects burst in midair. A white-hot pulse of energy bloomed like a second sun. It expanded outward in terrifying silence, swallowing the skyline, then the horizon, then everything. The light reached him. Jacob didn't scream. He didn't run. He simply turned and sprinted, down the hallway toward the emergency stairwell, his feet barely hitting the ground, his lungs burning. The world went white.